Can you use the law of attraction to release a phobia? Hey puppies, this is Melody Fletcher with Deliberate Receiving, where the law of attraction finally makes some freaking sense. Today's reader question comes from Awesome Marie, who wants to know, how can you heal and release a specific fear? I'm thinking of irrational fears and phobias. All fears are irrational, Marie. Just throwing that in there. I know that exposure therapy is a commonly recommended technique, but that doesn't feel at all in line with LOA in the vein of Abraham Hicks. It would be much better to resolve the fear on an emotional level first before going forward with action. Any tips? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what exposure therapy is, it's essentially when you have a fear of something and then you expose yourself to a large degree of that. You just immerse yourself in it, hoping that your mind will get the idea that this thing that you're so afraid of isn't going to kill you, and then calm down. So if you're afraid of spider, for example, you would jump into a vat full of spiders in order to not be afraid anymore. Okay, so yeah, that. Okay, so exposure therapy is a valid technique, but it is just, like all techniques, a tool. And it doesn't always work for everybody. It's not going to work for everybody, just like any tool, and it's not even going to work for the same people all the time. Whether or not exposure therapy is a good idea really depends on so many variables and so many factors: how the fear was formed, what the fear represents, the actual person, how hardcore they are about their growth, what techniques actually work on them. You can't really choose a tool and apply it to everybody. And you're right to say if it doesn't feel right for you, then it is not the tool that you need to be using right now. A phobia, like all other fears, is by definition irrational, but so what? It's still there, you're feeling it, and when you're feeling something, that emotion that you're feeling is a messenger. It is trying to tell you something. So a phobia, a fear of something, represents something else. So it may seem really irrational to you. Oh, I don't understand why I'm afraid of heights. I've never even come close to falling off a building. I've never seen anybody fall off a building, and it just kind of came about. I don't understand. It's because it represents something else. And so in order to clear a fear, you have to step into it. You have to explore it. You have to amplify it. Now, that does not mean exposure therapy. It does not mean you have to go up to the top of the building and stare down and go, what is this all about? You can just imagine it. You'll get scared enough. And I would actually recommend that you do this the gentle way. So try to figure out, what is it representing? Now, generally, fears are always a fear of loss of control. There's a belief that you can lose control, and ultimately the fear goes all the way to the fear of death. Yeah, I might die, because that to most people is the ultimate loss of control. Now, I guarantee you that if you have a fear like this, you have something else going on in your life that you're not paying attention to, something that scares the bejesus out of you that you are not dealing with, something that you are dismissing because you don't think that you can do anything about it, or because you don't think it's a big deal because it's been with you for so long. If a phobia has developed at a certain time, you want to take a look at what else was going on in your life at that point that caused that phobia to develop, and be ruthless about it. Do not dismiss anything, because here's the thing. You have a phobia because it's something that you're not dealing with and something that you're not paying attention to, and so it's not going to be obvious to you. Could be very obvious to somebody else that you might be working with. And if you have a phobia, it might be a good idea to actually get some help, to have somebody from the outside looking in, somebody who is going to be able to say, yeah, that's totally obvious to me. But your fears, the causes of your fears, are usually not obvious to you because they've been with you for a long time. And the only reason that the fear had to develop is because it's something that's not obvious to you, something that you're really not paying attention to. So do not feel bad about the fact that you don't see it right away, even if somebody else does. So talk to a friend, talk to a therapist, get a coach, have somebody help you with a phobia to help you clear it. But the process really is the same as with any fear. Find out what the root cause of it is. So for example, somebody might be in a really crappy job with a horrible boss, and they feel totally powerless. So they may have decided through their belief system that there's nothing they can do about it. They can't leave the job. They can never get out of it. They're just going to have to deal with the situation. There's nothing they can do about it. And wham, bam, a phobia shows up. Well, that phobia didn't just come out of nowhere. There were all kinds of precursors to it that you didn't pay attention to. But the problem, the core problem is the powerlessness that you're feeling in your job and the feeling of being trapped. So you may very well develop a phobia such as claustrophobia. You can't go into an elevator, can't be in closed spaces, yeah, because it makes you feel trapped. Well, that would mirror perfectly the feeling that you have in your job that you are not paying attention to because you don't think there's anything you can do about it. You see the correlation there? So a phobia does not have to be something that has to overwhelm you or has to stop you from living. These things can be released and actually be released quite quickly and quite successfully if you are willing to go for the root cause. Immersion therapy or exposure therapy is one way to do that, and the way that it works is that you change the association. So, if you're afraid of going into elevators and you lock yourself in an elevator and then at some point your mind gets overwhelmed and understands, okay, I am not actually going to die. But in that case, all you've really done is disassociated your fear of elevators from your fear of being trapped in the situation. You haven't actually gotten rid of the root cause, which means, guess what? That shit's going to come back to bite you in the ass again in a different way. I advocate going for the core root cause of it, releasing that, and then all symptoms of that fear, including any phobias, are going to go away. Well, I hope that this was helpful to you, my happy shiny puppies. If you like this video and you'd like to see more content like this, please like it, comment on it, share it, do whatever you're inspired to do, and then head on over to the website and download my free ebook that totally explains how the law of attraction works. It will blow your mind.